Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. Slow Burn Sunday. Today we're talking about the curious case of the will of Monica, the drama unfolding around it, and whether Ronnie might just be a convenient red herring. Everything points somewhere, yet somehow the spotlight might be misleading us. Let's walk through this layer by layer. The will leaves the house, the estate, the legacy of the late Monica to certain heirs. A document appears out of the blue. A figure named Ronnie enters the scene. She's been accused of forging the will or being complicit in its forging. Yet if we dig deeper, that accusation starts to feel too obvious. What we might be looking at instead is a setup. A narrative designed to steer us toward the wrong person. Because in mysteries, the easiest suspect is often the decoy. Ronnie has a clean record. Investigations into her past reveal nothing scandalous. No history of fraud, no pattern of deception. Yet the current story treats her as if she must be guilty because she happened to appear at the right time, in the right place. That very coincidence is what raises the alarm. A person with no blemish is suddenly in the spotlight. That suggests someone engineered the scenario, selecting a person with minimal risk and maximum visibility to carry the blame. The sudden spotlight on Ronnie doesn't clear her, it deepens the question. Why her? Consider the sequence. Monica's will, altered, suspicious. A drink or moment where Ronnie may have been compromised. Accusations flying. Tracy, distrustful and vocal, points directly to Ronnie. But Ronnie's defense feels more than rote denial. She maintains her innocence with clarity. She claims she didn't willingly get drunk. She didn't forge the will. And investigators, Lulu for instance, find no record of Ronnie having motive, no shady background. That matters. If someone insists they didn't commit the crime, and an investigation reveals no obvious motive or history, the simplest explanation may be that they're telling the truth. It doesn't guarantee truth, but it heightens the possibility that there's a deeper diversion at work. If Ronnie is a red herring, then who is the real culprit? The one who objected to the will originally, who had access to Monica's documents, who knew the estate, the family dynamics, and could manipulate the timing of events. Someone who could quietly plant a forged document, arrange for a drink to be laced, make Ronnie appear drunk or compromised. Someone who understands the Quartermain estate, the inner workings of the family, enough to anticipate how things will unfold when suspicion falls on the outsider. There are candidates. They have the background, the history of scheming, the motive to gain from a manipulated will. If you examine the structure of the plot, it's more likely we're dealing with a veteran mover. Someone who buried their tracks, used someone else as a pawn, and quietly isolated the pieces until the moment was right. Ronnie stands in front of the camera, but behind her the real hand may continue unseen. What does this mean for how the story is playing out? First, the initial angle, Ronnie's guilt, allows the writers to plant red herrings and misdirect the audience. The more obvious the suspect, the less we question alternative angles. While the world watches Ronnie, the real scheme may advance unnoticed. Second, it suggests a narrative chosen for convenience rather than merit. If Ronnie had little motive, but was convenient to frame, then someone is pulling the strings. We should look at the agenda of the accusers. Who stands to gain if Ronnie is blamed? Who benefits if the original document is discredited and replaced by the new will? Who has motive to rewrite history, rewrite the inheritance, rewrite Monica's legacy? Often in soap narratives, the answer is layered. Old grudges, hidden relationships, financial desperation, silent alliances. The will is more than a legal document. It's a symbol of power, of who controls the family name, the mansion, the legacy. Manipulating it gives someone control, and controlling the narrative around it gives them safety. Let's talk about the timing. A document appears. Evidence surfaces. Suspicion shifts to Ronnie. The drink allegation, that Ronnie was intoxicated or drugged, becomes critical. If Ronnie was incapacitated, she couldn't resist or act in her own defense at the time. That sets up the possibility of manipulation. But if you take Ronnie's claim seriously, she says she didn't drink or that the drink was tampered with, you're forced to consider someone else tampering. That someone else must have had access. to Ronnie's drink, to Monica's documents, to the estate. It suggests an insider, someone who knew routines, knew the vulnerabilities. Now, what about motive? If the real culprit wanted the mansion and the estate, forging the will and framing Ronnie serves multiple purposes. Remove a legitimate heir or claimant, shift suspicion away from themselves, and gain control. The will becomes a weapon. It's not just what it says, but who controls its emergence, its timing, its presentation. The stronger case to frame Ronnie means less attention on the origin of the forgery itself. Growing suspicion around Ronnie is expected, but cleaned-up record, no motive, earnest denial. These traits don't match the profile of someone pulling off a large forgery. Instead, they match the profile of a person chosen to absorb suspicion. And when you spot someone who doesn't quite fit the presumed suspect mold, you ask, what was their narrative role? Sometimes the role is to distract. We should ask, what are the holes in the evidence against Ronnie? If she was accused of drinking or being compromised, is there hard proof of it? If the will was forged, is there physical evidence linking Ronnie to the act? Or is the evidence circumstantial, relying on her presence or timing? If investigators found no prior record of misconduct, that suggests absence of planning on Ronnie's part. While a skilled manipulator would have planted false leads, the simplicity of the case against Ronnie indicates it may be built for optics rather than say Ronnie is innocent for certain. But in narrative construction, the character with too clean a slate and the right level of visibility is someone to watch. Because in mystery writing, the red herring often has one thing: they draw attention. They consume the story's energy. Meanwhile, the real puppet master works quietly. The storyline around Ronnie allows all eyes to focus there, and thus all other angles go ignored. Meanwhile, the real culprit keeps working. Consider the possibility the real architect of the scheme anticipated suspicions would fall on someone like Ronnie. Maybe they orchestrated the drink spiking, the forged will, the accusation. Then they let public opinion, family suspicion, the investigators chase Ronnie. They let the house of cards lean toward her. And when Ronnie protests, her defense can be dismissed as typical protest from the accused. The family tension, the legacy fears, the emotional weight of Monica's passing, all this creates context that makes the framing plausible. One of the strongest indicators of red herring behavior is when the suspect lacks motive yet has maximum exposure. It's cheap storytelling to give someone motive, but smart misdirection uses someone with no obvious motive because their actions feel incongruent. Viewers may think, why would she do that? Their suspicion turns into curiosity, distraction. The real culprit, who does have motive, escapes scrutiny because they blend in. In our case, Ronnie fits the first kind of suspect: accessible, suspicious by circumstance, but lacking motive or history. That screams red herring. Another facet: manipulating family emotions. Legacy like Monica's is not just property, it's identity for the family and for the show. Whoever manipulates it uses emotional leverage. They know accusing Ronnie will cause division, mistrust, family drama, and the more distracted the family is, the easier for them to move behind the scenes. The estate, the documents, the forged will, all happen in the shadows of family drama. Let the family argue about Ronnie. Don't let them inspect the origin of the forged will. Distraction is the weapon. Also, the forged will and spiked drink suggest coordination. Someone prepared the document. Someone arranged the drink. Someone chose Ronnie's moment of inability. Forging a will requires access to documents, signatures, legal knowledge, or contacts. Drugging a person requires access, timing, knowledge of routines. That indicates a player experienced in manipulation. Someone who has pulled such moves before. The amateur will make sloppy mistakes. The professional ensures someone else takes blame. Returning to the question, is Ronnie just a red herring in the Monica will mystery? The answer leans heavily toward yes. When you strip away the obvious evidence, we find that Ronnie's outward guilt doesn't align with inward profile. Clean history, honest protest, lack of motive. Meanwhile, gaps remain in the case. The source of the forged will, who provided access, who benefited most. The pattern flips. The suspect isn't the least likely person, but the most visible. The real culprit hides in the margins. For viewers and fans, watch for clues. When the story fixates on Ronnie's defense, you should ask, what isn't being shown? What documents weren't shown? What conversations weren't recorded? Who had the opportunity when others were busy arguing? Who stands to gain if everything is rerouted via the forged will? And pay attention to small details. The timing, the absence of motive, the lack of prior misdeeds. These are the hallmarks of someone set up as scapegoat. In terms of narrative satisfaction, this kind of twist serves the slow burn, which is in the subtitle here. The slow reveal means you expect misdirection, you expect suspicion on someone plausible but perhaps wrong. The moment when the true culprit is revealed becomes that much more impactful because all eyes were elsewhere. In soap opera logic, nothing is by accident. Every arrival, every document, every confrontation is scripted. The writers want Ronnie to appear guilty so that when the reveal happens, the shock is greater. It also gives Ronnie a chance to emerge from the shadows if she is innocent. The storyline will shift, from suspect to victim of manipulation, from frame to fighter. If that pivot occurs, it will confirm the red herring status. Because the suspect who fights back uncovers hidden evidence, questions motives, they move from the outer circle into the heart of the mystery. And the true architect of the scheme is then exposed. So as we watch the saga of Monica's will and the accusations on Ronnie, our eyes should go beyond the surface. We must ask, who gains most? Who had access? Who orchestrated the timing? And crucially, why is Ronnie taking the fall so neatly? Because often the easiest fall guy is the one with nothing to hide, making the suspicion all the more believable to others. But precisely because she had nothing to hide, she was the perfect scapegoat. Yes, Ronnie may very well be a red herring in the Monica Will mystery. The circumstantial accusations against her, the lack of motive, the clean record, all suggest she's been placed in the light to distract us. The real story likely lies with someone who knew more, had more to gain, and moved quietly while the spotlight was elsewhere. Watch the shadows. Watch the small details. The red herring is often shouting the loudest, while the real culprit holds their breath in the dark. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for all of your updates.